Hey guys, welcome back to the party. It is me, your girl, BrittReacts, and today we're going to react to something that someone sent over to me. This is Elon Musk on DOGE and uncovering fraudulent spending from the Joe Rogan podcast. We'll talk more about it on the other end. Let's see what he has to say. Okay. So before I start this, I have been diving a lot into what is going on in this nation. Some are like, why are you getting into political content? One, I'm allowed to. Two, allow me to evolve. And three, I should be knowing what's going on in my country because it's going to affect my children one day. And I think that's my biggest motivation. I'm going to leave it at that. I have recently done a lot of talking about Elon because Elon has been in the headlines. And when this was sent over to me, I'm like, this is actually great. Let me hear it directly from the horse's mouth. What is going on? Because I've had a lot of questions. I am really interested to see what he has to say. I don't know why. Why is that so problematic? I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you too. I have not watched much of Elon even speaking at the camera, like at all. I'm not even sure I know what his voice sounds like, to be honest. So I think this is great. Let's get educated together.
The Joe Rogan experience.
And that's the problem that I see with all this Doge stuff.
Right.
Because everybody should be celebrating that we've found a way to cut out fraud and waste.
Yeah.
If you pay taxes and you don't like that you have to pay so much in taxes, and then you find out that there's significant fraud and waste that's been exposed, you should be celebrating it. This shouldn't be, oh no, the wrong people found this fact and now it's a bad thing.
Yes.
And then there's the fucking propaganda, the mindfuck of calling it U.S. aid.
Yeah.
Instead of the United States Agency for International Development. It sounds like it's feeding hungry people.
Right.
People are going to starve, Elon. This is horrible. And then you find out, actually, it's like $250 million for transgender animal studies. Like,
yeah,
it's
they're
like
literally mutilating animals.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Mutilating animals in demented studies
Yes.
that are like the worst thing you could possibly imagine from a
Wow.
horror show.
The beagle one. The beagle puppy one.
Horrific, yeah.
Where they covered their head in a basket and put fleas on their heads to eat them alive.
Yeah.
And then they studied these beagles and then killed them. Like, what are you going to learn from that? That's good for anybody.
Yeah. This
Wow.
some psychotic stuff that happens. So, yeah. I mean I guess the real threat here is to the bureaucracy. So, like you probably saw, like, let's say like Trump as a threat to our democracy, which is ironic since he was elected with the majority of the popular vote. They started saying I was a threat to democracy. But if you just replace threat to democracy with threat to bureaucracy, it makes total sense.
Right.
So, I mean, the reality is that our
Okay. Just for the sake of 1000% understanding, I'm going to Google bureaucracy and then put it in place of democracy to see, is he correct? Bureaucracy, Bureaucracy in general refers to a system of administration characterized by a hierarchy of officials, adherence to fixed rules and specialized functions, often used to describe government organizations or large businesses. Okay. So he's saying, no. Instead of perhaps you're worrying about democracy, I think y'all are worried about bureaucracy. That's a hard word for me to say. Just me? Okay. Anywho, I do agree with Joe, and I've said this before, right? Like, anyone in their right mind should hear like, oh, we're going to dig deeper and see where your tax dollars are really going and be, if not excited, at least willing to give it a chance. And then he says, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but like, because it's coming from a messenger they don't like the entire message. I also think these mass firings are alarming to people. But again, if these mass firings are a response to unnecessary employment or people who are not doing what they are employed to do. And that in turn will give you back some of your hard-earned money. I don't know. It don't sound so bad to me. You know what I mean? But I think because the face of it, the people who are doing it aren't popular in some settings. I'm saying this in the best way, the nicest way that I can, because y'all know I am not with that polarizing, divisive content. I don't do that. But, it's just not coming from who they want to hear it from. And so I think it is being villainized in a way that if it were explained less alarmingly and less polarizing, I think a lot more Americans would be willing to give it more of a chance, or at least dig a little deeper to understand what's going on. But most people are just reading the blogs on Instagram, and that is their source, and the titles say everything they need to say, and they're enraged, they're up in arms, right?
Bureaucracy with threat to bureaucracy. It makes total sense.
Right.
So, the reality is that our elected officials have very little power relative to the bureaucracy until DOGE. So DOGE is a threat to the bureaucracy. It's the first threat to the bureaucracy. Normally the bureaucracy eats revolutions for breakfast. This is the first time that they're not. That the revolution might actually succeed. That we could restore power to the people instead of power to the bureaucracy.
Now, the size of it was when you guys first started investigating it, when you first get in, how much of it was shocking? Like just the size of it all?
Well, the size of it all, the small decisions result in multi-billion-dollar outcomes.
Small decisions result in large multi-million-dollar outcomes.
Small decisions result in multi-billion-dollar outcomes.
Multi-billion,
So,
dollar
we'd
outcomes.
see, it was a case where we saw one person was getting $1.9 billion sent to their NGO, which basically got formed about a year ago and had no prior,
What?
really no prior activity. So they just stand up an NGO. The whole NGO thing is a nightmare. And it's a misnomer
Googling
because if you have a
NGO.
government-funded, non-governmental organization, you're simply a government-funded organization. It's an oxymoron.
Right. It's a loophole.
Yes. It basically, the government-funded NGOs are a way to do things that would be illegal if they were the government, but are somehow made legal if it's sent to a so-called nonprofit.
Right.
But these nonprofits are then used to people
Do
cash
really
out these
big-
nonprofits.
Right.
They become very wealthy through nonprofits. They pay themselves enormous sums through these
Through the
nonprofits.
nonprofits. Which I think we all can understand, and I think everyone has known this has been going on since the dawn of time. Like when you think of like any of the money laundering scams, and I'm talking down to churches, okay? I'm talking down to not billion-dollar organizations, but there are so many organizations that hide behind nonprofit, and they ain't no non-profiting going on. There's a whole lot of profiting happening.
So insane that's been going on for so long.
It's a gigantic scam, like one of the biggest, maybe the biggest scam ever.
And how many NGOs?
I think there's a total number of NGOs, probably millions, but in terms of large NGOs, tens of thousands.
Wow. And they're getting government money.
It's kind of a hack to the system where someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros was really good at this. George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage. These days he's pretty old, but a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit, then
Googling.
lobby the politicians to send a ton of money to that nonprofit, so you can take what might be, a $10 million donation to a nonprofit to create a nonprofit and leverage that into $1 billion NGO. A nonprofit is a weird word. It's just a non-governmental organization. And then the government continues to fund that every year. and it'll have a nice sounding name, like the Institute for Peace or something like that. But really, it's a graft machine.
And what are the
And-
requirements with that money? What do they have
There's
to
often
do?
just really no requirements at all.
So they just get grants, and the government just assumes
Right,
that they're
just
doing
gives them
good
their
work.
money.
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work, but they.
This is a side note, but it's so interesting because sometimes you can hear his South African accent come out. Sounds like quite British, and then sometimes you can't. It's just a fact. I mean, like an observation. I don't know.
It's a giant graft machine. I mean,
But surely
people
s-
online are like unpacking this,
Right.
You know,
It almost seems fake. Like when you're seeing how we were covering this article that said 55,000 Democrat NGOs were discovered that had been contributing to campaigns and moving things
Yeah.
around and pushing propaganda, and they were all connected. And they found it through AI. That you have to
Yeah.
go through.
All right, one thing I'm gonna say is like I don't like if there's 50,000 on the Democrat side, there's probably an equivalent number on the Republican side. Like this is my issue. This is why I will never be able to pick a side because they're all corrupt. Everyone is corrupt. Like so I don't know. I just like I get who Joe is talking to and I get the relevancy of bringing up the Democrats, but he just said like the whole government, everybody know what's going on. There are a lot of people who know that this money is being filtered into people's pockets and not these NGOs on all sides, honey.
Steps and steps and steps to figure out where the money's coming from. Oh, it's all funneling down to this group,
Yes,
and this
exactly.
group does that. And yeah, it's a giant propaganda machine, a giant regime change machine.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I mean,
but does it do some good as well?
It does some good. So it's like it's not like 0% good. If it was, if it was like, if it was really 0% good, it'd be much easier to detect. So there's going to be some percent good that they add in there, but it's like it might be 5% or 10% good, but 95% not.
So is there a way to audit all this stuff and find out, oh, these people are actually just sending food to poor people. These people are actually just helping people with water in third world countries. There's a way to do that and keep funding those?
Yeah, I mean, we have continued to fund things that appear to be legitimate, even with the flimsiest, if there's even the flimsiest excuse. Like, I just say, like, send me a picture of the thing. Like, you could literally have AI generate the picture. But if you're not even willing to try to trick me, then we're like not going to send the money, okay?
So what restrictions were put on? There was some something set aside, like medicine, and there's what was set aside that there wasn't
there
going
was
to be a freeze on?
work for like Ebola prevention. I actually don't know if this work is
Ebola
even effective.
prevention.
It may or may not be. Like it could be the kind of thing where you sort of fund Ebola prevention, but it turns out that actually you're funding a lab that develops new Ebola recipes or something,
Recipes.
and they claim it's Ebola prevention, but it's actually Ebola creation. So some of these things, I don't know. I mean, just, but it just seems like we shouldn't be sending taxpayer money to dubious enterprises overseas.
Right.
Okay, let's just take that statement right there. We shouldn't be taking taxpayer dollars to send money to dubious enterprises overseas. Agreed. And someone should be in here sweeping up the cobwebs and lifting up the furniture to find all the crumbs and the moldy fruit and Cheerios and God knows what else. Absolutely. If you just take that statement right there, right, and you explain that like there are tens of thousands of organizations that are getting money and we don't even know what they're doing with it. Who would want to argue with that? Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative, left or right. Why would you want to argue with that? And this is what I'm saying. I think so much of it is people are just not liking who the message is coming from or how it is being done or, a million other things. Or they're completely uninformed or they're completely misinformed. And this is why I will continue to watch this type of content knowing very little because I'm learning and I'm understanding things that otherwise I wouldn't. And when you hear it come straight from someone's mouth, could he be lying? Absolutely. 100%. But at least now I can say, well, I watched a video where he said, rather than just be like, no, I don't know. And let me just draw a conclusion based off of comments on the Shade Room or Daily Wire or, E! News. I don't know. It's like to willingly stay ignorant. I just couldn't comply. I couldn't do that anymore because there is so much going on. And I'm in rooms and sitting at tables with people having these conversations, and I want to be able to offer something. So why not do it with you guys,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why are we doing it? Like, what exactly is the reason? Is it because we want to make friends with these people so the Chinese don't take over, the Russians don't take over? Okay, how much of that is like a good thing? How much of that is smart to do? And how much is a grift? And without any sort of oversight, which has really been going on for so long, they've just had free run.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, also, we just have a real issue with the budget deficit. It's gigantic. So, if
the budget itself is gigantic.
all things being equal, if we didn't have a gigantic budget deficit where interest payments, the interest on the national debt exceeds the Defense Department budget, which is truly astounding, which means, so we're paying over $1 trillion of interest on the national debt.
Whoa.
Then, okay, we would have more room for wasting money, basically.
We could waste more money if we didn't have so much debt, which is such a simple concept, right? Like your debt to income ratio is like the very basic of this concept. Is like, it's the same reason why like you can't just go buy a car if you're putting out more money. Like you can't go buy a car with a high ticket or interest rate or whatever. The bank is gonna be like, you're putting out way more money than you're getting in, or you can't go buy a home or even rent a home. That's why they ask you to show proof 3 times your income, because you're not gonna rent my apartment and you can't even make 1 time your rent. God forbid you have an emergency or other bills to pay. It's a very like that in itself is such a very simple concept that like I know all of this other government stuff in the trillions is such a bigger scale, but like when you simplify it and you talk to everyday Americans who maybe don't understand that it is very, very much so a simple concept, I think we need more of that. I think we need more people who are willing to just sit down and hear to understand rather than hear to respond. And a lot of you have been telling me, like I've been posting short form bits from my content about Elon and things, and a lot of you have been saying like about the budget and all these things. And so these are the reasons why I want to dig deeper and inquire more for myself. You may feel like I should know this, or why am I just now finding it out? But it's better late than never. And also like, why not? I'm just gonna keep saying that.
We're spending so much money that the country's going bankrupt. Then we really need to stop spending money if unless we're sure it is good value.
So essentially, we're like a poorly managed business with an unlimited credit line that is off the rails.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And if you were a
That's a good way of
person like
putting it,
you
Joe.
are, who comes in and takes over businesses and straightens them out, that's exactly what you're doing.
I mean, most of the time I create businesses from scratch. Like
Right.
Twitter was a case where, I kind of bought a company that was, I kind of knew it was a hairball.
Well, you came in at Tesla in the beginning, but they were already doing something, right?
No, Tesla did not exist in any meaningful form. There were no employees. J.B. Straubel joined 3 other people. There was no car. There was no nothing.
So it
was the
wasn't
beginning.
even a prototype yet?
No,
Oh, okay. I thought it was a prototype already.
no. There
So-
weren't even any employees.
Oh.
Oh,
Wasn't it that's a funny narrative that people like to say, that you didn't even create Tesla then.
Yeah, that's wrong.
he's such a like matter of fact guy. I'm not sure he's even smiled in this interview. Okay. I'm going to stop here. If you want me to continue to watch, it's 20 minutes long. I've stopped at 9 minutes and 58 seconds. I think it's a long video. If y'all are interested, I will watch the other half of it. I also want to note that like so many people in my comments have let me know how they don't like Joe Rogan, or how, he used to be this and now he's that. And, I think you have to allow people to evolve and learn. Like why do you want this man to say the same? But I think the same people I would watch a different type of video, perhaps like something older where maybe it was a version of Joe that he's evolved from. And people are like, he's trash, don't listen to him as a news source. But I bet some of those same people will come in here and be like, this was great. And it's like, again, the narrative of like, because someone is saying something that you like or you agree with, then it's okay. But the minute they start to say something you're not with, you just dismiss them to the far side, like literally exile them. And I think people should really start thinking about that. It's not always about agreeing. It's sometimes just about like understanding or accepting. For me, this was informational, it was informative. I think it's demystified Elon Musk for me a little bit. I do think just like Trump, he is a money man. He is all about money and how to make more of it. I can't say if morally that is where I want my government to put all of their attention, but I do think it is important, especially because I pay taxes. Okay? As a business owner. Okay? So let's talk about it in the comments. If enough of you say you want me to watch the other half, I will come back and watch it. If not, we'll just keep on going and I'll keep finding content that intrigues me. Go and have the day you deserve. Bye.